The confetti exploded like gunfire over Times Square, but Lincoln Hayes couldn't hear it over the shatter of his own heart. "I love you, Alex, God. I've destroyed myself loving you," he choked out, voice raw against the roar of the crowd, his fingers digging into the lapel of the man who'd promised him forever just last fall. In that electric instant, as Alex's eyes widened not with joy but with a flicker of something colder, guilt, maybe, or goodbye, Lincoln knew. The vanishing act had already begun, and it was his own damn fault for believing in fairy tales amid the concrete jungle. New York had always been a thief, stealing breaths and dreams in equal measure, but on that sweltering June morning in 2025, it stole Lincoln's soul right out from under him. He'd woken up in his cramped Brooklyn walk-up, the kind with fire escapes that doubled as laundry lines and walls thin enough to hear the neighbors' arguments bleed into your own. The air smelled of rain-soaked asphalt and halal cart grease from the street below, a scent that usually grounded him but today felt like a noose tightening around his chest. Graduation day. Columbia University. 4 years of grinding through lectures on American lit and urban sociology, dodging microaggressions in seminar rooms that still echoed with the ghosts of old money, all culminating in a cap and gown that suddenly felt like a costume for a play he didn't audition for. Lincoln stared at his reflection in the chipped bathroom mirror, adjusting the tassel on his cap for the third time. At 22, he was all sharp angles and quiet fire. 6 feet of lean muscle honed from pickup basketball games in Riverside Park, skin the color of rich coffee with a splash of cream, and hazel eyes that could pin you down or pull you in, depending on the light. He'd grown up in the projects of the South Bronx, where survival meant reading between the lines of textbooks, of people's bullshit promises, of the Bible verses his mama quoted to keep the devil at bay. But college? It was supposed to be the great equalizer, the ticket out. And Alex was the spark that made it all burn brighter. They'd met freshman year in a queer-lit seminar, the kind where professors droned on about Baldwin and Woolf while the room buzzed with unspoken tensions. Alex Rivera, with his effortless charm and that smile like summer on the Hudson, half Puerto Rican, half Irish, all trouble. Golden brown skin, messy dark curls that begged to be tugged, and green eyes that sparkled like the lights on the Brooklyn Bridge at midnight. He was the golden boy from Queens, pre-law track, the one who organized pride floats and whispered dirty limericks during office hours. Lincoln had been nursing a crush from the back row, scribbling notes that were half analysis, half fantasies. Until one rainy afternoon, when Alex slid into the seat beside him, dripping wet, and said, "Dude, if Auden was alive today, he'd write a sonnet about your jawline." That was it. The hook. From there, it was stolen kisses in the stacks of Butler Library, late-night falafel runs in Hell's Kitchen, bodies tangled under threadbare sheets while the A-train rumbled beneath the floorboards. Alex made Lincoln believe in more than survival, in messy, beautiful love that didn't give a damn about zip codes or family expectations. "You're my anchor in this chaos," Alex would murmur, tracing the scars on Lincoln's knuckles from street fights long past. And Lincoln, fool that he was, let himself drown in it. But love in New York wasn't a straight shot uptown. It twisted through subways and side streets, dodging the potholes of doubt. Lincoln's mama, Etta, had called from the Bronx that morning, her voice crackling over the line like vinyl on an old turntable. "Baby, you did it. Your daddy'd be so proud. Up there watchin', probably argin' with St. Peter 'bout the Mets." She'd passed when he was 15, cancer chewing through her like it had his old man before that. No siblings, just aunts who sent birthday cards with 20s tucked inside. So Lincoln carried them all in his chest, a weight that made every milestone ache sweeter. He'd promised Alex they'd celebrate after the ceremony. Rooftop drinks at the press lounge, overlooking the glittering sprawl that was their city. "Just you and me," Alex had texted at dawn, with a heart emoji that felt like a lifeline. Lincoln grinned at his phone, ignoring the flutter of unease in his gut. Lately, Alex had been distant, buried in internship hours at some fancy Manhattan firm, coming home late with excuses that smelled faintly of cologne that wasn't his. But graduation was magic, right? It washed away the grime. The ceremony was a blur of pomp and circumstance under the relentless sun. Lincoln sat ramrod straight in his folding chair on the great lawn, sweat beading on his neck as the dean rattled off names. When Lincoln Jamal Hayes echoed over the speakers, he rose, heart pounding like bass from a block party. Diplomas in hand, sociology. With honors, he scanned the crowd for Alex, spotting him in the sea of black gowns, waving like a fool, that grin splitting his face. Lincoln's chest swelled. This was it. Their moment. Afterward, the campus erupted in hugs and howls, families spilling onto the quad with coolers and cameras. Lincoln wove through it all, high-fiving old roommates, posing for selfies with the GSA crew. Then Alex was there, pulling him into a bear hug that lingered too long, breath hot against his ear. "Proud of you, Link." So damn proud. They ditched the after-party for the subway, shoulder to shoulder on the one train up to Midtown, knees knocking in the sway. Alex's hand found Lincoln's under the crush of commuters, thumb stroking circles that sent sparks up his arm. "Tonight's ours," Alex whispered, and Lincoln believed him, because what else was there to cling to in a city that chewed up hope and spat out hustle? Times Square hit them like a fever dream, billboards blazing, tourists in Red Heart New York tees snapping pics, the air thick with hot dog steam and exhaust. The graduation revelers had converged here, a tidal wave of caps tossed skyward, confetti cannons popping like champagne corks. Lincoln laughed as a gust caught his gown, billowing it like a cape. Alex tugged him toward the heart of it, where a flash mob of alumni was breakdancing to old-school hip-hop. "Spin me," Lincoln said, half joking, and Alex did, pulling him close, dipping him low until their faces were inches apart, the world a kaleidoscope of lights and laughter. In that dip, with Alex's curls brushing his forehead, Lincoln felt the words bubble up, unbidden, unstoppable. The love that had simmered for years, now boiling over on this neon altar. He straightened, cupping Alex's face, the crowd fading to static. "Alex, listen, I need to say it. Out loud, for real this time. I love you. God, I've destroyed myself loving you. Every late night studying when I could have been out, every time I bit my tongue around your frat boyfriends who side-eyed us, every piece of me I gave up to fit into your world. It's you. It's always been you." The words hung there, heavy as the humid air, Lincoln's pulse thundering in his ears. Alex's eyes, those green eyes that had once been his safe harbor, flickered. Not with the fire Lincoln craved, but something fractured, like glass about to crack. "Link," Alex started, voice barely audible over the din, his hand slipping from Lincoln's waist. And then, from the corner of his eye, Lincoln saw her. A girl, petite, blonde, in a sundress that screamed Upper East Side money, pushing through the crowd toward them. Her face lit up at Alex, and she called his name like it was hers to own. "Babe, there you are. I thought you ditched me for the after party. Babe." The word landed like a sucker punch. Alex froze, color draining from his face, and Lincoln's world tilted. The confetti rained down, sticking to his sweat-slick skin like accusations. Who was she, and why did Alex look like a man caught in a lie he'd rehearsed 1,000 times? "Link, wait, it's not," Alex stammered, but the girl was there now, looping her arm through his, oblivious or maybe not. "Who's this?" she asked, tilting her head at Lincoln with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Lincoln's throat closed. The hook twisted deeper. "Just the guy who's been loving your babe for 3 years," he said, voice steady even as his insides roiled. He stepped back, the crowd swallowing him whole, and in that moment, the vanishing began not with a bang, but with the quiet snap of a heart learning to let go. The subway ride back to Brooklyn was a descent into hell, or what passed for it in a city where even the damned paid rent. Lincoln sat slumped against the graffitied window, the fluorescent lights flickering like a bad acid trip, casting Alex's profile in stark relief. The girl, Chloe, her name was Chloe, dropped like a bomb in the chaos of explanations Alex tried to spit out, chattered on about sorority mixers and summer shares in the Hamptons, her hand never leaving Alex's thigh. Lincoln stared at it, that manicured claw, and wondered how many times it had replaced his own. He should have bolted right there in Times Square, melted into the masses like so many ghosts before him. But pride, that stubborn Bronx bitch, kept him rooted. "Explain," he demanded, voice cutting through the bass thump of a street performer nearby. And Alex had, in fits and starts, the story unraveling like cheap thread. "Started 6 months ago," he said. "The internship at Hargrove and Associates, all glass towers and power suits, where Chloe was the paralegal with the killer resume and the family yacht. She gets it. Link, the pressure, the expectations. My parents. They don't even know about us. About you." The word twisted like a knife. Alex's folks were old-school Catholics from Jackson Heights, the kind who prayed rosaries for their son's fays and dreamed of grandkids with Irish last names. Lincoln had always been the secret, the midnight rendezvous, the roommate in holiday cards. "But I love you," Alex pleaded, green eyes pleading now, wet with what might have been tears or just the humidity. Chloe hovered, confused, then furious, piecing it together as Lincoln's glare bored holes. "You're gay? Like, actually, and I'm the—" "Oh my God. Alex, what the fuck?" The fight spilled into a nearby dive bar, the three of them crammed into a sticky booth under neon signs hawking $5 shots. Lincoln nursed a whiskey neat, the burn matching the one in his chest, while Alex played referee between sobs and accusations. Chloe stormed out first, heels clicking like gunfire, vowing to tell everyone what a fraud you are. Alex chased her halfway to the door, then came back, collapsing across from Lincoln with a face like crumbled clay. "I didn't mean for this," he whispered. "It was supposed to be casual with her. Cover. To buy time until after graduation, until I could come out for real. You know how it is, the firm's all conservative. My family's." "Shit, Link." I panicked. Lincoln laughed, a hollow bark that turned heads. Panicked? That's what you call fucking her behind my back? Building a whole life that doesn't include me? The bar's jukebox kicked on, some Springsteen dirge about broken highways, and Lincoln felt every mile of it. He'd ignored the signs, the late nights, the sudden bro trips with unnamed friends, the way Alex's phone buzzed with notifications he silenced too quick. Love, he'd told himself. Trust. But trust in New York was a luxury for tourists. By last call, Chloe had texted Alex a barrage of screenshots, DMs from mutual friends, whispers of hookups at firm parties. "You're done," she wrote. "Both of you." Alex's phone lit up like a crime scene, and Lincoln watched him scroll, face paling with each ping. The firm. His family. The future he'd bullshitted about over lazy Sundays in bed. "Go fix it," Lincoln said finally, sliding a crumpled 20 across the table for the tab. "Fix your mess." "I'm out." He left Alex there, hunched over his beer, the door's bell jingling like a death knell. The walk to the subway was a gauntlet of blurred lights and honking taxis, his graduation gown discarded in a trash bin like yesterday's news. Back in Brooklyn, the apartment felt cavernous, echoes of their life mocking him. The Polaroid collage on the fridge, beach days in Coney, pride parades, the half-read copy of Giovanni's Room on the nightstand, Alex's cologne lingering on the pillows like a ghost. Lincoln didn't sleep. Dawn crept in, gray and unforgiving, painting the walls in shades of regret. He packed a duffel, essentials only, jeans, tees, his mama's old rosary beads for luck that had long run dry. A note on the kitchen counter, scrawled in Sharpie, "You destroyed us. Don't follow." Then he was gone, slipping out like smoke from a chimney, the door clicking shut on the life he'd built brick by brutal brick. The city swallowed him whole, as it always did the broken. He crashed first at Jamal's, his old high school buddy from the Bronx, now slinging coffee at a Bushwick roastery. Jamal didn't ask questions, just handed him a black eye and a couch that sagged like defeat. "Hearts heal, man," Jamal said over breakfast burritos, his locks tied back, voice steady from too many his own heartbreaks. "New York's got 9 lives. Use one." But healing? It was a myth peddled by self-help podcasts and Hallmark cards. Days blurred into a haze of odd jobs. Dog walking in the village for yuppie tech bros, bartending shifts at a dive in the East Village where the tips were greasy and the patrons greasier. Lincoln moved twice, first to a sublet in Williamsburg, then deeper into Bed-Stuy, crashing with a rotating cast of queer artists who'd adopted him like a stray. He dyed his hair blonde at the roots, a fuck you to the man who'd made him feel invisible, and got a tattoo on his ribcage, a compass rose, pointing nowhere. Nights were the worst. He'd wander the bridges, Brooklyn to Manhattan and back, the East River churning below like his thoughts. Memories assaulted him. Alex's laugh echoing in Washington Square Park, their first fight over nothing, burnt toast. Really, but it was about fear. The way Alex's body fit against his like puzzle pieces forged in fire. "I destroyed myself loving you," Lincoln muttered to the wind one midnight, the words his mantra now, a scar that itched. Word got around the grapevine, Columbia's queer network was tighter than a subway strap. Alex had come out, messy and public, after Chloe's revenge post went viral on the alumni group chat. Disowned by his folks, fired from the internship, crashing on friends' floors. "He asks about you," a mutual texted Lincoln. Says he's sorry. Begs you to talk. Lincoln deleted the thread. Blocked the number. Sorry wasn't a bridge. It was rubble. Summer dragged on. Heat waves turning the asphalt to tar. Lincoln threw himself into community work, volunteering at the Ali Forney Center, counseling street kids with eyes like his once were, wary, wounded, waiting for the world to kick again. There, in the fluorescent-lit common room, smelling of instant noodles and hope, he found slivers of himself again. Kids like Theo, 17 and freshly out, with a mohawk and a sketchbook full of superheroes. You ever love someone who didn't love you back, right? Theo asked one night, pencil flying over paper. Every damn day, Lincoln replied, and for the first time, it didn't gut him. He shared stories, not all, but enough about building walls in the Bronx, cracking them open for a boy with green eyes, only to watch them crumble. Theo nodded, drawing Lincoln as a caped crusader, unbreakable. You're still standing, though. That's the win. By August, the itch to vanish deeper took hold. New York was too small now, its streets mapped with minefields of memory. He applied for a fellowship, urban youth outreach in Chicago. No ties, no ghosts. Acceptance came via email on a rainy Tuesday, and with it, a one-way ticket stub burning a hole in his pocket. But before he ghosted for good, fate or that cruel New York bitch had one last twist. A pop-up art show in Soho, flyers plastered on every lamppost. Jamal dragged him, promising free wine and hot artists. Lincoln went, numb to the schmooze, nursing a plastic cup of Merlot amid canvases dripping with abstract pain. And there, across the loft, haloed by track lighting, was Alex. Leaner, shadows under his eyes, curls longer and wilder. He was talking to a sculptor, animated, alive, but when his gaze snagged on Lincoln, it all froze. The room narrowed to a tunnel, the chatter fading to white noise. Link, Alex breathed, crossing the space in 3 strides, hands outstretched like a supplicant. Close, he reeked of desperation and that same cologne, a punch to the gut. I thought you left. For real. I did, Lincoln said, voice steel wrapped in silk. Multiple times. You just keep showing up in my head. Alex winced, searching his face like a map to buried treasure. I fucked up. Royally. Lost everything, job, family, you. But I get it now. Love isn't a cover story. It's the whole damn book. He reached for Lincoln's hand, tentative, and for a heartbeat, Lincoln let him. Skin on skin, electric as ever. But the compass tattoo burned under his shirt, pointing west. Too late, Alex. Some ruins you don't rebuild. You learn to roam. He pulled away, melting into the crowd, the wine sour on his tongue. Outside, the rain slicked the streets, washing away the last of what might have been. Chicago waited, a blank canvas in the Midwest wind. Chicago hit Lincoln like a freight train wrapped in flannel. Wind off the lake that clawed at your bones. Streets wide enough to breathe but narrow with their own ghosts. He arrived in September, duffel slung over one shoulder, the L train rattling him to a studio in Wicker Park that smelled of fresh paint and possibility. The fellowship was real work, coordinating workshops for at-risk queer youth in the South Side, places where bullets flew freer than acceptance. No glamour, just grit, the kind Lincoln knew like his own scars. His first week, he shadowed Maria, the program director, a no-nonsense Latina with tattoos snaking up her arms and a laugh that could disarm a room. "New York's written all over you, Mijo," she said, eyeing his faded Columbia hoodie. "Big apple, bigger bites." "What chewed you up?" Lincoln shrugged, stacking flyers for a poetry slam. "Love, mostly. The kind that leaves teeth marks." She nodded. No pity, just the quiet solidarity of survivors. In Chicago, he learned, wounds weren't hidden. They were worn like badges at the corner bar. The kids were his anchor. There was Kai, 16, trans and towering, with a voice like velvet thunder reciting spoken word about mirrors that lied. And Lena, 19, non-binary and fierce, braids adorned with beads that clicked like Morse code as they organized zine drives. Lincoln mentored without preaching, sharing snippets of his unraveling. The confession in the confetti storm, the betrayal that tasted like cheap whiskey. "Love doesn't destroy you," he'd tell them during circle shares, steam rising from styrofoam coffee cups. "It reveals you. The strong parts. The ones that walk away." Nights, he'd prowl the city solo. Navy Pier for the fireworks that burst like false promises. The blues festival where saxophones wailed his unspoken blues. He dated, tentatively, a barista named Riley with freckles and a motorcycle, who kissed like he meant it but faded after 2 weeks when Lincoln's walls proved too high. "You're holding a funeral for someone who's still breathing," Riley said, helmet under arm, straddling his bike on a crisp October dawn. Lincoln didn't deny it. Alex's ghost lingered in every near-miss, a shadow that made him flinch from the light. Back in New York, the fallout had ripened into legend. Jamal kept him looped in, sporadic texts painting the picture. Alex, unmoored, dropping out of law school for a gap year bartending in the village, volunteering at the same shelter Lincoln once haunted. "Dude's a mess," Jamal wrote. Tattooed your initials on his wrist. Thinks it's romantic. I told him it's creepy. Lincoln stared at the photo Jamal snuck, a blurry shot of Alex pouring drafts, ink peeking from his sleeve. LH, encircled in barbed wire. His stomach twisted, a cocktail of rage and residual ache. Delete, block, repeat. Winter clamped down, snow blanketing Chicago in hush. Lincoln threw himself deeper into the work, co-founding a mentorship pod that paired youth with alumni storytellers. Guest speakers rotated through. A drag queen from Boys Town with tales of riots reclaimed, a poet from the 90s AIDS crisis who spat fire about survival. Lincoln's slot came in December, holiday lights twinkling mockingly outside the community center's fogged windows. He stood before 20 wide-eyed faces, microphone heavy in his palm. "Graduation day," he started, voice steady. "I confessed everything. Tore my chest open in the middle of Times Square. Told the man I loved how he'd wrecked me without even trying." Gasps rippled. A few kids leaned in, mirrors to his younger self. He wove the thread, the hook of that dip and declaration, the gut punch of Chloe's arm in his, the vanishing that wasn't escape but evolution. "But here's the truth," he pressed on, eyes locking with Kai's across the circle. "Betrayal isn't the end. It's the forge. It burns away the bullshit, leaves you with what's real. I vanished because staying would have killed the best parts of me. And yeah, it hurt like swallowing glass. But on the other side, freedom. To love myself first. To build without blueprints from someone else's lies. Applause thundered, raw and real, and afterward, Lena hugged him fierce. You're our superhero now, Link. The one who got away. He laughed, the sound genuine, thawing something iced over since June. That night, snow swirling like errant thoughts, his phone buzzed. An unknown number, New York area code. He almost silenced it, but curiosity won. Lincoln, it's me. Alex's voice, ragged from disuse, crackled through the line like a storm front. I know you blocked me everywhere else. Please, just hear me out. Lincoln sank onto his fire escape, the metal biting cold through his jeans, city lights smudging below. 5 minutes. Clocks ticking. Alex poured it out. A deluge. The disownment, his mother's voicemail. Scripture-laced and final. The aimless drift, couch surfing. Odd jobs. Therapy sessions where he unpacked the closet he'd built around them. I was scared, Link, of losing the safety net. But losing you, that's the real fall. I've changed. I'm out, loud and proud, marching in every parade, telling our story to anyone who'll listen. Not to win you back, just to honor what we had. Silence stretched, taut as a tightrope. Lincoln's breath fogged the air, memories crowding. Alex's head on his chest post-love, whispering futures that never hatched. Honor, he echoed, tasting the word. You think ink and apologies rewrite the hurt? I vanished for me, Alex. Not as punishment. As rebirth. I know, Alex's voice cracked. And I don't deserve a sequel. But if you ever. Chicago's not that far. Amtrak runs daily. A pause. Heavy with unsaid goodbyes. I love you. Still. Always will. The call ended with a click, leaving Lincoln adrift in the flurry. He didn't cry, not then. Instead, he wrote. Pages in a journal, verses that bled onto the page. A spoken word piece titled Vanishing X. It became his armor, performed at open mics where crowds nodded like they knew the script. Spring bloomed tentative, cherry blossoms dusting the lakefront paths. Lincoln's fellowship extended. Full-time offer. His own office with a window overlooking the chaos he now called home. He inked a deal with a local press for a chapbook. Queer survival stories drawn from the kids' voices and his own scars. Riley circled back. Casual coffee that bloomed into bike rides and tentative touches. No ghosts invited. But Alex's call lingered, a pebble in his shoe. Memorial Day weekend. Impulse or masochism, he booked the train. Not for reconciliation, he told himself, but closure. New York greeted him with open arms and old wounds, the familiar rumble of the 4 train, the sizzle of knishes from street vendors. He didn't text Alex. Instead, he wandered solo, Central Park benches where they'd picnicked, the High Line rails where they'd stolen kisses amid wildflowers. Dusk found him in Washington Square, arch aglow, buskers strumming Dylan covers. And there, fate's final fuck you, Alex, feeding pigeons with a sketchpad balanced on his knee. He looked up, startled, then soft. You came, Lincoln nodded, hands shoved deep in pockets. For me. Not us, they talked. Hours bleeding into night. Honest, unvarnished. Laughter cracked through the grief. Memories reshaped from shrapnel to stepping stones. No kisses, No promises. Just two men, remade by ruin, sharing the weight. I don't regret loving you, Lincoln said finally, as stars pricked the sky. Just the vanishing took too long. Alex smiled, sad and true. Better late than buried. Lincoln boarded the Amtrak at dawn, city shrinking in the rearview. Chicago waited, fuller now. He'd vanished once. This time, he arrived. Summer returned to Chicago like an old lover. Sultry, unapologetic, jazz spilling from every corner club. Lincoln's life unfurled in layers he'd forgotten he owned. Mornings jogging the lakefront, salt spray kissing his skin. Afternoons in the center, where the kids' laughter drowned out echoes of what-ifs. His chapbook dropped in July. Vanished Traces, Queer Ghosts of the Urban Drift. A slim volume that sold out at Quimby's and earned him a spot on a Windy City lit panel. Critics called it raw as a fresh tattoo, tender as a bruise healing. Lincoln just called it therapy, pages stitched from the threads Alex had frayed. Riley stuck around, evolving from fling to fixture. They weren't fireworks, more like a steady hearth, built brick by brick over diner pancakes and midnight debates on Foucault versus fanfic. Riley, with his red hair and engineer's mind, saw Lincoln's edges without flinching. You're not broken, he'd say, tracing the compass rose in bed, sheets tangled like city vines. You're mapped. Every scar's a street I've yet to explore. Sex with him was unhurried, exploratory, no rush to claim, just mutual discovery. Lincoln learned to let go, to laugh without looking over his shoulder for ghosts. The center thrived under his wing. Kai came out to his folks, tear-streaked but triumphant, crediting Lincoln's circle shares. Lena's zine went digital, viral in queer TikTok circles, amplifying voices from the margins. Maria promoted him to co-director, toasting with shots of Patron at a rooftop bash overlooking the Loop's electric hum. You brought the fire. Hayes, she said, clinking glasses. New York may have scorched you, but Chicago, we're the forge. Yet, in quiet hours, doubt crept like fog off the lake. Was vanishing true freedom, or just another cage, self-imposed? Alex's texts trickled in, sporadic, respectful. Links to his bartending gig's Pride float build, a photo of the wrist tattoo faded but unapologetic. Lincoln replied sometimes, short bursts, looks good, proud of you, no invitations, no regressions. Closure wasn't erasure. It was coexistence, distant stars in the same sky. Fall painted the city gold, leaves crunching underfoot as Lincoln prepped for a national conference in D.C., reclaiming narratives, queer resilience in urban America. He keynote, voice carrying the weight of Times Square's confetti and Brooklyn's bridges. The room riveted. Afterward, a silver-haired professor cornered him. Your story's universal, son. The confession, the betrayal, it's Baldwin reborn for the Instagram age. Write the novel. The world's starving for it. The seed took root on the flight home, ideas blooming amid turbulence. Lincoln started drafting in November, NaNoWriMo fueling feverish nights. A semi-autobiographical epic of a Bronx boy navigating love's labyrinth in the Big Apple, laced with magical realism, ghosts of lovers past haunting subways, confetti that whispered prophecies. He titled it provisionally Confetti Confessions, the words a bridge from pain to poetry. Thanksgiving found him with Riley's family in Evanston, liberal academics who grilled turkey and grilled him gently about the ex back east. Lincoln shared the bones. No meat, and they nodded, passing pie with understanding eyes. Love's a marathon, not a sprint, Riley's dad said, pipe smoke curling like wisdom. Lincoln slept sound that night, dreamless, the rosary beads tucked away but not forgotten. Winter's grip loosened into a mild December, and with it came the call he'd half dreaded, half hoped for. Alex, voice lighter now, edged with nerves. I'm in town for a job interview, nonprofit, youth advocacy. Coffee, neutral ground. No strings. Lincoln hesitated, compass spinning in his chest. Riley, ever the rock, squeezed his hand over brunch. Go. Ghosts don't haunt if you face 'em. They met at a Loop Cafe, all exposed brick and fair trade brews, holiday lights twinkling like hesitant fireflies. Alex was transformed, clean-shaven, button-up crisp, the wild curls tamed into a professional wave. Success looked good on him, softening the hollows. They talked shop first. Alex's pivot to social work, Lincoln's book buzz. Laughter came easy, old rhythms resurfacing without the rot. Then, inevitable, the pivot. I saw your chapbook, Alex said, stirring foam into oblivion. Bought 3 copies. Gave one to my therapist. Said it helped unpack the wreckage. Lincoln sipped his Americano, bitter as truth. It was for me, mostly. And the kids. You were. The catalyst. Alex leaned in, green eyes clear now, unclouded by fear. I get that. And I'm glad. For what it's worth, I finished my own vanishing act. Moved to Philly last month. Fresh start, no safety nets. Dating a barista who quotes Auden unironically. A grin, self-deprecating. He's no you, though. The air shifted, charged but chaste. Lincoln felt the pull, the old gravity, but it didn't drag. Good for you, he said, meaning it. We both deserved that. They parted with a hug, brief and brotherly, the kind that sealed chapters without slamming doors. Alex headed east, Lincoln west, to a reading at a Logan Square bookstore, where fans, strangers who'd tasted his words, thronged for signings. Riley waited in the wings, bouquet of daisies in hand, pride blooming brighter than the stage lights. New Year's Eve, they watched the ball drop on a rooftop, Chicago's skyline a rival to New York's, fireworks blooming like affirmations. Riley pulled him close amid the cheers, whispering, "Here's to arrivals." Lincoln kissed him slow, tasting futures untethered. The novel coalesced through spring, words flowing like the river after thaw. Lincoln wove in the human threads. Etta's hymns hummed in safe houses, Theo's superheroes battling inner demons, even Alex as a specter, flawed, forgiven, faded to foil. Agents sniffed around, offers trickled, but he held out for the right fit, the one that honored the mess. By graduation season, anniversaries of that confetti carnage, Lincoln stood on a stage again, this time captaining his own ceremony, the center's annual showcase, kids reciting triumphs under strung lights. He watched Kai graduate high school, Lena launch a podcast, pride swelling like a tide. In the crowd, anonymous, he spotted a familiar curl, Alex, in from Philly, clapping fierce. Their eyes met, a nod exchanged, allies now, in the quiet army of the loved and lost. Lincoln vanished once, into the ether of self-preservation. But reinvention, That was the real magic, the slow alchemy of ashes to embers, embers to flame. In the city of big shoulders, he'd found his stance. Not destroyed, but distilled. Loving Alex had cracked him open. Loving himself sealed the gold, kintsugi strong. And as the final poem echoed, we confess, we shatter, we rise from the trace. Lincoln raised a glass to the vanished no more. New York was a memory, etched but not etched in stone. Chicago was home, pulse steady, heart whole. The end? Not. Just the hook to the next chapter.